while your day is winding down. They're just getting started. This is South Coast Tonight with Chris McCarthy and Marcus Farrow. They've got you covered on all the news of the day, from local issues to politics on both sides of the aisle. This is the place where the movers and shakers come to be heard, to listen, and where they're held accountable. This is South Coast Tonight on WBSM.
And welcome back to South Coast Tonight. I'm Chris McCarthy. Jess Machado is here for the vacationing Marcus Farrow, who is celebrating his birthday. We have Evan Gendreau here in studio with us. Evan Gendreau is a Westport Republican, made a very strong showing in the year that wasn't for Republicans for state representative. And I think Evan's a guy worth listening to. So I said to Jess, let's have Evan in.
When I didn't know I was on.
Right.
He's like, hey, can you call Evan and see if he'll come in tonight? I was like, this is weird, but sure, I'll do that for you.
Always good to be in the studio.
Wait, I want to see what one you are. Try talk.
Hear me now?
Nope. So you're two. Got it. Now we're good.
Now we're good.
Yeah.
Perfect. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
I don't know what happened when I guess when I got sick, that board got sick. So
Yeah.
It's all different, I think now. I don't know. Anyway,
We got it under control.
we got it under control. So Evan, what have you been doing since you ran for representative?
A lot of learning.
Right?
Yeah, you learn a lot in a campaign.
You do.
I still work in the public policy field, so still very much involved in policy and affecting change that way and working in on a lot of different issues.
So for people who don't remember, which I think is a lot of people they voted for you and then
Right.
But tell the people what communities you ran in, so they know.
So our district, the 8th Bristol, included Westport and parts of Fall River, New Bedford, Freetown, and Acushnet. So it's a very big district for a rep district.
It's enormous.
There's
land-wise.
neighboring districts that include a third of a city. So to have 5 towns is a lot for a campaign to undertake.
It's an enormous amount of area.
And the redistricting added Acushnet.
Right.
Yeah.
So previously we had another part of Ward 1 in New Bedford, 1D, E, and F, which was the airport and north.
Right.
Now we had the opposite side of Ward 1 and including 2 precincts in Acushnet as well. So
How did you do in Acushnet?
we did well. We got around 58% of the vote in Acushnet, so that was a strong showing there. Very grateful for the voters in Acushnet for putting their trust in me. And I think we, that we were very data driven in our campaign. We looked at the numbers. We saw where we needed to focus, where we needed to, make sure our voters turned out, right? And they did in both Acushnet and Freetown.
Freetown, you did very well.
We did. We took Freetown, I think, around 53%. So, we going off the data, we knew where to focus. We knew where to look at, where we needed to do better, right? And that the best poll is an election, right?
Absolutely.
So, we can really see down to the precinct level where we fell short, where we did well, the issues that we focused on, the messaging that we had, the campaign that we ran, the things that we decided to do in the campaign. So there's a lot to it, but, definitely a learning process.
Yeah. How did you do in Westport?
We did okay in Westport. We got around 44% of the vote. There were,
That's tremendous.
There were a few precincts I think we identified as, we needed to do stronger in.
Okay.
Just going down our, I guess, checklist that we had of what we needed to do. 2 precincts there, we needed them to turn out in higher numbers, which unfortunately, didn't happen. So I think that's where we fell the most short of any place in our district.
And that was your opponent's hometown as well. You're both from Westport.
Right, we're both from Westport, yeah.
Anyway, he was a strong incumbent.
Right.
Very nice guy. Very well financed. But I was very impressed by your run.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
I think a lot of people were.
I think
And there was growth from the campaign 2 years prior.
I think we were able to do it with comparatively little funds, I think, because of the campaign that we ran, right? So we were able to cut costs because we were efficient in our strategy, in our spending. So we knew where to target. We knew, where to focus. And I think that translated in votes. I think if we were able to fundraise some more, that was a big setback for us as well, right?
Sure.
So you have to move a message, right? And you can't always move a message if you don't have the funding. And I think that showed in not only this election, but a lot of them across the state.
There was almost no funding from the Massachusetts GOP to any candidate. It wasn't exclusive to Evan.
Believe me, it was.
And it wasn't a lack of
Really-
candidate talent either. I think that we had some really good candidates
Yeah.
statewide.
I
Tim
agree.
Whaley
We're
not
running for
talking about
Barnstable
you,
County
Russell
Sheriff.
Prentice, but go ahead.
We had, Tom Hodgson, who's just a phenomenal, who really cared about public safety in Bristol
Right.
County, worked really hard. And there was a lot of cases like that. Lenny Mira on the North Shore lost by 1 vote
Right.
his seat. So I don't think it was a lack of candidate quality. We had some great candidates.
It was unfortunate that what the last Republican Party did to people who really worked hard, who were quality candidates, who had a strong message, and they were left out to dry. That's the way it goes.
My hope is in a similar way that candidates learned from the last year, 2 election cycles, even beyond that, is that the party will take the same takeaways from, the results of elections that we've had, right? So we need to, hone on mail-in voting. We need to take advantage of the things that are available to us, right? And that should be reflected in the strategy, recruiting candidates, supporting, local candidates as well, building a bench up, recruiting people in the party to grow the numbers, right? RTCs, membership. And so there's a lot of things that can be done.
Are you happy about the direction the Republican Party just took?
Yeah, I reached out to the new chairwoman and congratulated her. And I think that, she has a good vision for the future of the party. And I wish her well. And I've offered to assist in any way that, because I think it's a group effort, right? If we
Better
keep,
be, yeah.
no, I would hope so. If we're all divided, and that's not the way we can win the vote, especially with 9% in the state, right?
Right.
For us to be fighting each other doesn't make sense. So I think if the party can come together in some way and focus on shared goals, common values, right, which there are a lot that we have,
Sure,
right, as Republicans, and
Package
really
that
focus,
and brand it, and
right? Focus
sell
on
it
what
to those
matters,
unenrolled and independents.
And those voters are there. It shows
Of
in the
course.
elections, right? We've had on the same ballot that Elizabeth Warren was reelected in 2018. We also reelected Charlie Baker by a considerable margin.
So both Jess and Evan are activists within the Republican Party, and what do you think? Do you think the party will be able to put forward a U.S. Senate candidate this year or next year?
That's a big ask, I think, for a short turnaround, especially because rebuilding the party is a long process.
It has to be.
The Democratic Party has strategies years out, right? The Republicans should, and I think we can get there. But it's a build, right? So I think at some point we can, right? We had Scott Brown win a U.S. Senate seat, so it's a possibility, I think, definitely. And there's an appetite for a statewide Republican who shares common values, and so I think it's possible if the right candidate comes along and the right strategy is in place and the infrastructure is there for support.
The right candidate is there already, right? So, I mean, in my opinion, this is about the long game. We're looking 8 years ahead. So the people who are in charge right now should be strategizing for the next 8 years, really the governorship in 8 years, because Healy's going to win again in 4 more. I just don't think there's any way that we could do the work in the next 4 years to get a candidate that could.
And that was borne out, I think, in the Patrick administration. Right. Charlie Baker ran in 2010.
Right.
And then lost that race.
Barely.
While Patrick was reelected. And then won in 2014 against Martha Coakley. So that in itself shows the growth that can happen even in a 4-year cycle.
I think, though, and we were talking about this, I think, off air or whatever, but I think, and I know Evan, as a candidate, needs to not always participate in these types of conversations. I think the damage that has been done over the past 4 years under the previous chairman's leadership, we're going to be digging ourselves out of a hole for a long time. So I appreciate that there's people in place that have a vision. They're looking at that long game, but I hope people don't get too, depressed about not seeing those results right away, because there's just so much work to do. And we talked about this as well. A tremendous amount of that relies on fundraising. And, I think the party's in debt. I think we're going to find out more about what that number looks like. I think it's going to be atrocious. I think people are going to be mad and angry about it. And then we're going to have to depend on people like our new chairwoman to convince people to invest in this party, pay off some debt, and then continue to donate so that we can, support and survive and thrive eventually.
So if the Republican Party doesn't get its act together and really show that someone who's a quality person should step forward to run for U.S. Senate, right? I mean, you can't ask whatever people think of Mitt Romney or Charlie Baker or Bill Weld. Those guys won. They won. So Scott Brown, they won. So you're not going to scratch the surface to develop a candidate like that if there's not something for them to see and say, I think those guys can help me win, right? If it's someone who's willing to lose, you don't want to deal with them. But are we looking that we would be able to get a candidate?
I already could name one. I'm not going to say it on here, but off the air, I'll say a name.
But you think it's a strong candidate?
I do.
I think that there's a lot of talent across the state. It's just a matter of.
But are they willing to?
I get someone that's going to check all the boxes off for you.
Do what it takes.
It is difficult because you may go through a cycle where you won't win, right? And you have to gear up for 6 years out, right? So it's a long game, but at the same time, even on the intra-party stuff, right? If folks are motivated and want to see a good candidate, the best way to do that is to get involved. And I think now there's a lot of opportunity to do that more than ever.
Well, I do agree with you that it is an opportunity right now. I will give you an example. I supported Jeff Deal for U.S. Senate. All right, he did a great job in the primary. That was a really strong primary. Kingston and Beth Lindstrom, right? Jeff Deal came out of the top. And I thought he would have made a good U.S. Senator. But I guess we all didn't realize that Jeff Deal's, I didn't look that close. After he got done losing that race, he became an Uber driver. Now, there's nothing wrong with being an Uber driver, but it's not who you're not going to elect your Uber driver to governor. So the fact that he ran for U.S. Senate and didn't have a plan if he lost is a real personal flaw. I imagine that his wife was really stunned by that. Now, what about his children, right? And the fact that then he was able to get the gubernatorial nomination over a very talented guy. Not a political guy, but a very serious, talented guy, wealthy, successful. And the fact that our party rejected that guy for an Uber driver who could string together a couple of phrases that tickled our buy-in bone is ridiculous. It's really ridiculous.
I've been witness to see that there are people in the party that actually do care about the candidates, some of which I'll even say Evan is in front of me, that care about the arc of his success and, post-election are invested in what he's doing. And I know he's going to talk about that next at some point if we can get to it. Right. But I think that, there are people that look at that and care, and they understand, they have a history, and they know you can't. Somebody was telling me if Evan ran again next time, right? And I know he's apprehensive because he's saying if Trump is the candidate, right? What's that going to look like for candidates, Republican candidates in the state? But if you lose 3 times in a row, you got to go away for 10 years. You can't run for anything else. You got to go away, and then you got to come back. And Evan's so young, he could do that. But do we want him to do that? Or do we want to make sure... No, and I'm not just talking about Evan, but do we want to make sure that we're picking the right time? Is it about the long game? Is somebody planning stuff out? Because I can tell you what, Jim Lyons wasn't planning anything out. And I would have to think that... Yeah, and I would have to think that Amy is part of a team of people that are about the long game, and they are planning from the smallest things. I mean, Amy's already announced that they're involved in this race in Attleboro for mayor, right? Because we have a Republican that's already serving as mayor. Mm-hmm. He's in this race. That's your bench. That's who knows what that guy's going to be capable of after he serves there, and is he going to move on? Sure. As we've so sadly learned. I'm just saying, I think that even the smallest little decisions, people that care are going to, I hate to say, but micromanage those things. They're not going to allow what you just said to happen.
Well, look, I have to tell you something. I've done more background check on someone to mow my lawn than we did on the guy we ran for governor. Right?
I almost don't want to talk about it anymore.
My point
It's
being,
really tough
my
for
point
me.
being is that you're leaving yourself open. And I've seen in the past other candidates just show up and no one does. Look at Santos in New York. What would have happened if Jeff Deal had won? Do we even know?
We're going to take a break. We'll be right back after this.
Download the W.
Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm Chris McCarthy. We have Jess Machado here and Evan Gendreau of Westport. But Evan, you have some very interesting news. Tell us what's happening in Westport, what your latest endeavor is.
Oh, wait.
To- oh.
Shoot. Go.
Jess turns the microphone
Crying
on.
out loud.
I pulled papers to run for a school committee in Westport. So the election is April 11th, our annual town election. The seat it's an open seat this year, and no other candidate had pulled, and I figured we needed to run a candidate for that seat, so I pulled papers, and yeah.
And nobody else pulled papers.
No.
Beautiful. How do people follow your campaign? How do they get involved?
If you search my name, Evan Gendreau, on Facebook
How
or
do they spell
Twitter,
that?
GEN.
You might consider changing the spelling, but anyway.
EAU. I know. Sometimes I'll get an X on the end. I see a lot of different spellings. Yeah.
So once again,
It's GENDREAU.
and it's on Facebook.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, your favorite social media, whatever
He's got a
it is.
good social media imprint
Appreciate
out there.
that.
Footprint. I guess that's the right word. Yeah.
Super. So looks like it'll be a straight shot to when's the election?
April 11th. Yep.
So excited.
That's really exciting.
Texted me today. Right at 5 o'clock was the last time, because some people, they have that strategy. They're going to wait until the end to see who the candidates are, and I guess Westport thought that we don't need to challenge him. He's going to do a great job, and so he's the only one on the ballot. I was very excited.
No, listen, congratulations. I mean, politics is quite frankly about a lot of things, including timing.
Right.
And so looks like your timing here is fantastic.
Looks like it. I mean,
Unless someone robs it from you.
Well,
and we still have to go through the signature certification process, so there's still,
that should be a breeze.
Right,
but I mean, we were talking before.
How many
air.
signatures do you need?
It's 50 for Westport.
And you've turned them in.
We're turning them in, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
I think they're due this week.
You think they're due?
They are due this week. They're due this coming week to the town clerk's office, yeah. The last day to pull papers was today.
Oh, okay.
And the signatures
because
are due
I
this
agree
coming
with
week.
this
Yep.
strategy. What if two people came out of the woodwork, right? And it was going to be somewhat of a competitive race. You maybe would not want to move forward, right? And because again, a loss would be a consecutive loss, and it's about timing and the strategy. And so I know Evan's thought a lot about it, but I think it couldn't have worked out. Look what happens. Amy Carnevale becomes chair,
Well,
and we already got a Republican elected in Westport.
I'll just add too that this isn't
Let's let
just
the voters decide first,
exactly. And
Just let
I
me
would be
excited.
honored to earn the votes of any folks in Westport who want to support our campaign. But this, I want to add too that this isn't just a seat just for a seat. This is, I think there's a lot of opportunity in our school system in Westport. We have a new school. There's a lot of areas to expand opportunities for students and additional funding from the state. And so I think that there is opportunity here. I was in that school system. So, it
Probably
means,
not that long ago.
You know what? Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What do you say to people who say, "Why didn't you do this first? Why did you state rep first and not start
Right.
at the school committee?" Because I actually do second what you're saying.
You thought he was going to win.
Actually, it was a it's a good district, but also there's a lot of opportunity with that seat. That's a way that we can affect a lot of change for the communities in that district. You can get local aid money, so it eases the burden on taxpayers in every town, right? So they don't have to go to a 2.5 override every year.
Look, I ran for state representative and then lost, but came back and got elected to selectman. So it's not an uncommon path to take.
Right.
Do we have calls there,
We
Jess?
do. Let's take a caller.
Sure.
Hi, caller. Thanks for holding. You're live with the guys and Jess.
Hi, I'm a liberal, and I support transgenders in the ladies' room.
Okay.
Thank you.
High five. You waited a long time for that.
I
I mean, he was on hold for a while.
I saw the light.
508-996-0500. That's how you can get on the air. That's the Tim Weisberg show you want to be calling. Tim Weisberg was talking today about the transgender community, and Hey, look,
I missed it.
Tim's a great guy. Tim's a great guy. I disagree with him on a lot of things, but I always listen to his program because I find it interesting, if not sometimes infuriating. But Tim's a good guy.
If you did miss it, by the way, was it today or yesterday?
Today,
It was
yeah.
today. You can go back, obviously, to the app or WBSM.com and pull up Tim's podcast. And I heard it was highly entertaining today.
So, Evan, what sort of things are happening on the school committee that you want to be part of?
A lot of the issues now that are happening are related to funding.
Okay.
So we just constructed a new middle high school, and that was a $96 million project. The state footed about $37 million of that. So we're on the hook for the 58-ish million.
Right.
So
Was it an
there's-
override?
There's a debt exclusion on the ballot this year for Westport.
Oh.
So we'll see, where that
Wait,
goes.
for the school that's already built?
Yeah, there's the last I checked the sample ballot, there was a debt exclusion, but it could be in the form of an override. It could be.
Did that
no, it's
school
an
come
over-
in? Did that school come
It
in
is an
on?
override. It's excluding. It's exempting that as separate from the 2.5 levy. Yeah,
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you
But
come
they
in
already
under
built
budget?
the school.
correct.
The school's built. Yeah, so I find that a little weird because we had to do our override prior to it even
Everyone
breaking
does.
ground.
Yeah.
Did you guys come in under budget or above? Where did
It
you
was
fall
just
on that?
under.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just under.
Same architects, and so all these MSBA projects are very similar. They all
Yes.
have a very similar blueprint, same team, same everybody. But when Somerset was looking into their middle school project, I researched, and a lot of the same team players are, one of the ones that did the school in Westport. It's beautiful, by the way.
The school building assistance fund is a. Geez, that's interesting. You guys haven't passed the override yet.
I need to know more about that because I'm very curious.
I'm going to double check the sample ballot, but the last I checked, that's
So how
the
did you-
wording that was on the ballot.
Do you
was
have to
also
do it
talks
every
of-
year?
I don't think that's not solidified yet. So they could switch it to an override. I'm not sure.
Have
the-
you
the
had an
structure.
override vote yet?
We have not. No,
But you
so
built the
it
school.
was talked about at our last year's town meeting is when it was really started to. It was the discussion started then.
But the school's built.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me. But I
know.
mean, I think you have to raise the
Right.
funds before you can get the school built.
Right. The override could be on other projects as well. So I'm not sure how they structured it in the budget.
Oh, could be.
But it could. Yeah.
Or maybe there's a final phase. Is it completely done? I don't know. Maybe they, like Somerset, I anticipate, going to run out of money and we're going to be doing crop overrides for the rest of our lives. We have a caller, though, that's been waiting. Hey, caller, thanks for holding.
Hey guys, I hope I'm better than the last call. Listen, I wanted to talk about national, but you guys just brought up a great thing.
Sure.
That I think. Oh, and by the way, just so you know, Chris, I pour over the last 3 pages of the Wall Street Journal, so you don't have to.
Thank you. I like the journal.
P-O-R-E, I pour over it. But anyway, but you guys were just talking about something that's near and dear to my heart that I've just been learning about. And I'd asked the new candidate, can you explain to the listening audience that the difference between a Prop 2.5 override and a debt exclusion? Because this is killing us on our taxes every year. Do you
Go
guys
ahead,
know? I
Evan.
learned
Oh,
a
he
little
can't.
bit.
Oh, hold on. Evan couldn't hear you. Hold on one second. You're going to ask that question again.
Ask the question again.
Yeah, so the question is the difference between a Prop 2.5 override that the voters vote for, and it's usually a big one, a big vote. It usually goes on the, I think it goes in almost on the general election ballot, like a ballot question.
Right.
Or a town election where you get to vote a much smaller number of interested people get to vote on a debt exclusion, and what that does to people, to our local property taxes.
Sure. So the 2.5 override, for folks who may not be familiar, is Proposition 2.5 is a state law that says municipalities can't raise the annual tax levy above 2.5%. So an override is when voters go to the ballot box, it has to be approved to be on the ballot, and vote for the exemption of that, so the municipality can raise above the 2.5 levy.
And just interrupt you really quick.
Sure.
When does that vote? When does the 2.5 override vote take place for a local town?
So it depends. Typically, most municipal elections are in the spring. and town
You
elections.
do a Prop 2.5 override in a municipal election?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, it is. So you can.
It
Okay, I
is.
didn't know that.
Right.
Yep.
Yep. Yep.
And then go ahead. I'm sorry.
The debt exclusion is separate from the 2.5 override. So the debt exclusion allows towns to raise monies above 2.5, but only on a certain expense. So if a town is building a police station, is building a school, usually it's building related, they can raise above a 2.5 levy for that specific project. And that's the difference.
And the other major difference, caller, which will be important to you, is that a general proposition 2.5 override is forever.
Forever, yeah.
A debt exclusion.
I knew that. That's what I just learned. I was hoping we would discuss
a
that.
debt exclusion is generally for 20, 25 years.
For the length of a bond. Maybe.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
But I did not know, because it's. I guess I'm going back. I'm getting a little feeble. I was thinking that the 2.5 overrides were generally. I didn't realize they were municipal election. I'm going back to the old days when we actually voted for Prop 2.5, which was a general election.
Well, yeah, you know something.
Changed the mass law, but it comes. Yeah, go ahead.
So it very well. I think it's up to your local community when they set the election for the override. I think that generally they try to get it at the biggest turnout elections. So sometimes they're in November, but sometimes they're in April with your town elections. I think you're over in Mattapoise at Marion, that area.
Yeah.
So if they can, strategically, they try to get it to November. But if they,
I would like. Here's this for a proposal, Jess. You might like this. So the state just we had an initiative petition to amend the Constitution, and we just changed the tax structure. We amended the Massachusetts Constitution, the oldest written Constitution in the world,
terrible,
to have now have a two-tier tax rate, a progressive tax, rather than a flat. How about we do something like this? A municipal elections that raise taxes, property taxes, would have to have a quorum of the taxpayers of the town, or we change the state constitution that taxes can only be applied if a majority of the voters approve it, and not on a special election that 2% of the people show up to and they all work for the school district.
So I think there are some requirements. I don't think it can be a special election, to be honest with you.
Well, I'm just saying very small people in very small turnout elections have an awful outsized effect.
Yeah, but I mean, just having been in Somerset and navigated through multiple town meetings, we do everything we possibly can to educate the voting public on these meetings. We do grassroots work. We do flyers. We did signs. I mean, we make sure every single we even actually, for the first time, we sent out postcards to each home in Somerset, alerting them of the town meeting. I don't know what more we can do.
What was the turnout, Jess?
It was the same as it usually is. No more different than what it is. We have an average of 350 to 450 people, and that was we had some big stuff on the ballot. But what can we do?
When people got engaged.
Well, I mean, you have hot topic issues, and there's some strategy behind the warrants and what you put on them.
But taxes are forever,
I don't know what to tell you, man.
Right.
We talk about this stuff all the time in Somerset. We cannot get people to come out and vote, no matter what we do.
Well, also with that too, part of that, in order to get some of these things on the ballot, you have to show up at town meeting for it to appear on the ballot afterwards.
Correct.
So
Right,
whoever
right. You
shows
have
up
to be
to town
engaged
meeting
to
decides
get them.
what shows up on the ballot.
You have to be
Absolutely
engaged to
true.
get the ball rolling. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you're never going to get the majority of the registered voters in town to show up to the. I mean, you're just not going to do it.
You know what?
Well, but if you might if you said that the question is, well, I don't know if you would because people aren't that engaged, but if it was special rules for tax levies, That is the taking of property, whether it's
But see, I don't.
money or property. I think anyway. It's just,
I don't have a fetish for voter turnout.
It seems too easy to.
That's merely
to affect
numbers.
change with a very small
Yeah, but that
number
can
of
be
people that are engaged.
that can benefit some people
Right.
as well.
A smaller number of informed voters is a far better government.
Sure is.
It really is.
I don't want a bunch of people showing up to town meeting
It's how
and not
America's
knowing
system
the
is
facts.
designed.
If we were in D.C., well, except for the latest congressional rule, if you're in D.C., you don't even have to be a resident.
Right.
We got to
You don't
take
even
a
have to be
break.
a citizen, right?
We got to
So,
take a break, caller. Sorry, we got to let you go.
Have a good night.
great night.
All right, guys, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with Evan. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about what he's interested in instead of what I'm interested
Great.
in.
Municipal finance is great.
I was like, hey, I know he knows this stuff. We're good. All right, hold it. Yeah, let's take a break. Don't talk.
New Bedford's News Talk Station, 1420 WBSM.
Would you like to
Take South Coast Tonight with you wherever you go. Stream Chris and Marcus on the WBSM app or get their podcast on the app at WBSM.com. Now, back to South Coast Tonight.
And welcome back to the show. I'm Chris McCarthy. Marcus Farrow is on vacation, so we have Jess Machado filling in for Marcus. But, of course, she'll be here tomorrow.
No, I'm off tomorrow.
You're off tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm going to UConn. My daughter got us tickets to see a basketball game. I think we're playing Rutgers. So I think we're either we have the best of Howie or when I filled in for Grace.
Oh,
Not
nice.
sure what's in the queue. But tomorrow it's going to be pre-recorded.
Super. And we have Evan Gendreau in here. Now, Evan, looking, I think I might have confused you a little bit with all the different conversation and we're taking phone calls. So explain what's going on with the Prop 2.5 override in Westport, so that way we can put a finer point on it.
So just to be clear, this coming year in Westport, there's a request for a 2.5 override.
A general
right. So it's different, as mentioned earlier, from a debt exclusion. So if any folks are interested in that, the Westport Finance Committee posted on Facebook how you can join this meeting and share your opinion and listen and see what the request is for. But this is for a general override.
It's for a tax increase that will never go away.
Which would show up on this year's ballot.
And all tax bills going forward.
Right.
Forever.
Correct. And it's
not like
and it's
when
not
you built
tied,
the school.
It's not tied to a project. Correct.
Which goes away at the bond.
Exactly.
Evan knew what he was talking about. We did not.
Right,
we were
right.
like, what do you mean? You built the school and you still need to do a prop override?
Right. So they're just
And that can be
doing
used for anything because it's a general
Right.
override. That can be, the argument is in this case and is in most cases is the town can't maintain level service, right? But that's
I have to tell you something. The confusion for me was that I can't believe they're doing it because generally speaking, tax overrides are for projects with a lifespan, very specific. A school, a library, a fire station, not just to raise everyone's taxes so you can buy
So
whatever the hell
dangerous.
you want, right?
So dangerous.
Really interesting.
Want to take a caller?
Well, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, caller. Thanks for holding. You're
Yes,
next.
good evening.
Hi.
Good evening. I'd like to take you a little off base here.
Sure, go ahead.
But I've got three Republicans here, so I think I know that their answer will be. You have Adam Riley on also talking politics, and they were talking tonight about how Karen Spilka has ended the term limits up in the Senate, and so she can be there forever. And my question just comes up with this. Looking in the past, we had Finneran. In the past, we had Salta Macy. Obviously, this isn't a good thing. And Jess, I think it's your representative. I don't know her last name. Erica. Maybe you can help me. I don't know.
Roush.
What is it again?
Roush?
No. It was a long name.
There's Pat Haddad over there in Somerset.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, she's, it was Erica, and I don't know the last name, okay? It's kind of long. And she came up with the idea of having, on the internet, having reports about how certain Senate committee is vote, not Senate, but representative committees vote, and that would be on there so people could know how their representatives were voting.
Because
okay?
the committee votes are still kept quiet, are kept confidential.
And in the effort to try to get more transparency, okay? So my question to you people happens to be, and I think I'm going to know the answer being all Republicans, what do you think of that and this?
So I can tell you that I think it's a good idea. I know it's been advanced forward, but again, I think that information is good. But if you have all the information in the world, but you don't have an alternative candidate on the ballot in November, then what good is it? It's just a hobby at that point, right? I mean, if only people running are the incumbents of whatever party, it happens to be Democrats now, then even if you have all that information, without a choice, it doesn't matter.
And Massachusetts also is the only state in the nation where all three branches are exempt from public records requests. And the current governor maintained that. And again, we're seeing a lack of transparency, not only with committee votes, and you can't see how your representative voted. There's roll call votes, so they don't even take roll on certain votes, right? It just passes. And this is unique to Massachusetts. It's, famous for its lack of transparency, which is
and
unfortunate.
It's the fault of the Republican Party. Because if you don't run candidates, you're never going to get there.
Well, that's the check and the balance, right? The two-party system provides that check and balance.
We have another caller that's on the line. Lines are lighting up, you guys. Hi, caller, you're live. Anybody?
Hello. They're flushing the toilet.
All right, should we let them go?
I think we get the message. They're a loser.
Hey, caller, you're live.
Hello, I think I'm back again.
You are. Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to get your take on that, and I imagine being Republicans, you wouldn't want to see a long, person in there for a long time.
Well, actually, my feeling on this is again, I think that it's a legitimate issue to discuss, but so long as the Republican Party refuses to run candidates successfully for the Senate,
we're down to 3, I think, right now.
It doesn't even matter. In other words, the Democrats have successfully won most Senate seats. So then they make the rules, which is the way the process works. And whatever those rules are going to be, the Republicans have essentially selected themselves out. I mean, if you're like Jim Lyons didn't run candidates, he did these fakakta ballot questions that the legislature would have disemboweled as soon as they got a hold of him anyway. So it was a big stunt to make it look like he was doing something when he did nothing. And that's why he was ejected the other day.
Soundly. We have to take our
Was it
last
soundly?
break. Yes.
I thought it was a little closer than
No, soundly. People were scared. We have
I
to
don't
take our
believe
last
in
break.
fiction. But
We'll be right back.
the show. Listen, I really enjoyed. Jess, thanks for hanging around.
Of course.
Evan, thanks for hanging around. Good luck with the school committee. Give him the mic.
He probably has to come back. Oh, do I not have his
Please turn
mic
his
on?
microphone off.
Oh,
For
crying
one
out
final
loud.
moment.
Thank you both for having me on.
Thank you.
It's always good
and
to
if
be
you
in the
draw an
studio.
opponent, we'll have them back as well, as we do here at WBSM. So get ready for a debate.
Sounds good.
But if not,
Always up for a debate.
all right. Thanks
Anything
so much.
scheduled next week? You got a couple extra seconds. Anything coming up next week?
We have the Ward 3 debate.
Oh, that's right. We never got to that tonight.
We
Some
didn't.
really
I'll do it on
robust
Monday.
conversation.
I believe we might have the mayor coming in on Monday
Okay.
for a continuing discussion of all the continuing discussions.
Yep.
Folks, have a wonderful weekend. Jess, enjoy UConn.
Thank you very much. See you besties next
Evan,
Saturday.
drive safely back to Westport.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.